People paying money to see me in a 20-by-20 ring.
Welcome everybody to another edition, not just any edition, but the 75th edition of the 20x20 Ring Crew. I'm your co-host Joe. I'm here with my brother Matt. What's up, Matt?
What's going on?
Happy birthday, sir.
Oh, thank you very much.
Matt here is the Dirty 30. You only do it once, unless you believe in karma. I believe in karma. I'll come back at some point. I don't know what as, but I'll be back.
My 20s are over.
Your 20s are over? It's okay. It's okay. I come from the future. And I'm here to let you know your life isn't over. 40 is the new 20, by the way. So technically...
Well, see, growing up, like, I was like, man, if I could just reach 30, that's good enough. And I'm at 30, and it's like, kind of regret saying that.
I don't feel 40. Most days I don't feel 40. I feel younger than 40. So
Cool.
I count myself lucky. I don't know about the Viking Raiders here. As always, we have wrestling on the background. We're actually watching the August 5th edition of Monday Night Raw as it happens live, and we're watching the Viking Raiders in a fucking squash match. And now they're having a little video segment about the unfortunate, untimely passing of the one and only Harley Race.
Yeah.
You and I thought this was going to happen at the beginning of the show.
Yeah.
But instead, they had a 10 bell for the victims of the mass shootings in San Antonio and
El Paso.
El Paso.
Yeah.
And
Dayton, Ohio.
Thank you.
So, which makes sense. Obviously, our condolences go out to all
absolutely
those affected by that.
Fucking shame.
Stop the hate, people. Stop the hate. But yeah, we did lose a legend, Harley Race. And
for me, he was fucking Mr. NWA there for a long time.
So that was going to be my question to you. I mean, obviously, being a pro wrestling fan of decades, you and I now, we've seen guys pass away. That's life. That's just how it works. But there's always, not to ever discredit anybody's life by any means, but there's always those that it's a little more. So it affects us a little more. For me, it was, to this day, I think for sure it was Eddie Guerrero.
Yeah,
and I'm sure for many out there too. For a guy that grew up NWA, for you, losing Harley Race, I mean that's like, again, it's like losing the guy that represented that company.
It hurts. It hurts, man. You don't get people like Harley Race much these days anymore. Legit tough guy.
Yeah.
You hear, throughout different podcasts, Ric Flair's podcast when it was around, shoot interviews, you hear all kinds of stories about Harley. My favorite is the time that the WWF was going to do a show in St. Louis, which is it's Harley's backyard, and they were going to run either the same day or the same weekend as the NWA show out there. And Harley went and found the venue, and him and a couple guys went and burned the ring down.
Okay.
And so he thought that was that, and then come to find out, they just put up another ring. And he was so adamant about the WWF not running the show.
Yeah.
He went. He got in his Cadillac with his pistol, and he went up to the venue, and he kind of bypassed everybody. This was before the event started, and he went and he found Hulk Hogan. And, because Harley was like, fuck this, there's only one world champ, and it's me. So he went and found Hulk Hogan in the building, and Hulk Hogan happened to be taking a shit at the time. And Harley found him and bust open the door and pulled a pistol on Hogan, told him, you're not doing this fucking show. and Hogan's like, wait a minute, brother, wait a minute, you can't be doing that, calm down. And Flair had to tell Harley, like, you need to back off, man, like, this is not the way to handle this shit, you know. But legit tough guy, and he'll be missed. Yeah.
If I had to put you on the spot right now and ask you this question of an equivalent to Harley Race in today's roster of any kind, you could have the whole wrestling world as you're picking. Is there a guy that stands out to be
Minoru Suzuki? Absolutely.
Makes sense to me.
Legit tough guy. Truly doesn't give two shits. Will put you in your place whether you deserve it or not.
Sure. Yeah.
And just truly doesn't take anyone's shit. You go back, and again, there's all kinds of stories about Harley Race. You just gotta hunt them down, and they're all delicious bits of storytelling, man. Everybody's got Harley stories, and he was the kind of guy where you would either let him control the match or he wouldn't work with you. And I remember hearing I forget who was talking. It was a former opponent of his from way back in the day. He was doing an interview for the 605 podcast with Brian Last, and they were talking about how just hard-headed Harley was sometimes, and he fucking he would sit there, and he was in the ring with somebody. It might have been Flair, and Flair's whoever it was telling him, like, I want to do this spot or whatever. He's like, you're not doing that spot, kid. What do you mean I'm not doing the spot? Like, you good? We're working together, I thought. You're not doing that spot. Well, then what? Well, I'm going to do it anyway. And Harley stops and takes a drag of a cigarette and goes, well, then I'll move. And he was that kind of a guy. He just didn't take anybody's shit, but on the same token, if he knew you were worth the shit and he respected you, he clearly did the right thing and he put you over. Flair for the gold.
Yeah.
What better example of the passing of a torch is there than that pay-per-view? Easily goes down as one of the most iconic matches in pro wrestling history, without a doubt.
Absolutely. And whether you are somebody like Joe or even somebody that watched him as a kid or even watched him as an adult, or somebody like me who had to watch all this stuff in archive footage, there's so many things out there to watch, and I do this I say this not to for a cheap plug here, but because I definitely implore anybody to go and watch as much Harley Race footage as they can, because so much of it is on the WWE Network. 20x20crew.com/podcast/WWE Network. It's all one word. 30 days for free. And just look up Harley Race. And watch Flair for the Gold. That was one of my first Ric Flair matches. One of the guy that got me into pro wrestling after I was hooked from what I saw on TV. He started me off. He's like, if you're going to get into wrestling, you're going to watch certain matches first. And if you don't like this stuff, then you really don't need to watch anything else. And just that match, that cage match at Starrcade '83, was just, I mean, one of my, still one of those matches I can always go back and rewatch. Definitely someone that's going to be missed, you know, and it's one of those really tough ones. You know, this is like an Eddie Guerrero. This is like a Roddy Piper. This is one of those guys that transcended the wrestling industry to what it is today, and yeah, he's definitely going to be greatly missed. And it's weird now because Joe and I are going to now go into our semifinals here.
Yeah, of the King of Kings tournament, and speaking of Harley Race, he is still in the running.
Still in the running.
Yeah, semifinals. This has been an interesting tournament. I didn't know exactly. Obviously this is something we've been wanting to do for a while.
Right.
But just hearing some of the matchups we've had to go through.
Yeah.
It's been very, very interesting. It required a lot more thinking than I thought it would.
And I feel a lot because I didn't really like cutting guys without giving them a match, but I feel like we cut the right guys. I feel better about it now that we are in the semifinals. I felt that way even going in the quarterfinals, where it's like, yeah, these guys, the guys that we kept, they are definitely the core guys of pro wrestling as far as this tournament is concerned. As we watch Raw, we that's Bray Wyatt, right?
Yeah, that's Bray Wyatt.
Bray Wyatt with a new gimmick. I'm just want to point this out to anyone that's excited about the new gimmick of Bray Wyatt. Don't be, because give it another a month or two, and it's going to be the same shit that's been Bray Wyatt in WWE. I don't have a whole lot of faith in their writers. I have a lot of faith in him as a wrestler and as a guy who can get his character over, because he did that in NXT with Bray Wyatt. But as soon as those WWE writers fucking touch anything, I know I'm not excited, and that's not a shot at Bray Wyatt at all. But it's just I don't see it getting over any more than a let's say upper mid card status.
I agree, and you know, that's what makes it hard to be excited about shit like this. You know, friend of the show who I spent the weekend with, he doesn't like the mask. It's a Tom Savini mask for those who don't know. And I don't know about you, but you know, when DC relaunched their Batman title, their main Batman title, there was a pretty important storyline with the Joker, and he killed. Essentially, it was like a retelling of Death in the Family,
right?
Where he kills. Spoiler alert: he kills Robin in the original. I forget who he kills in this one. I think it might have been Batgirl. Either way, the Joker's mask is very reminiscent of Bray Wyatt's mask. And for me, that just takes a lot of credibility for that mask away immediately. It's like, wait a minute. What exactly are we talking about here? Like, it looks too fucking similar.
Yeah.
So, I don't know if Tom Savini's just, getting up there in age and just, like, trying to pass it off or what have you, but it's a big turnoff for me.
I got a lot of people that in the horror community that I'm affiliated with. Okay. They're not gonna like what you're saying right now. But well, I agree. I
mean, hey, look at the mask yourself. I mean, it's not, you know, I understand it's my opinion, but at the same time, like, if you just pull the masks up side by side, you're looking at the same fucking mask.
Yeah. No, I agree. I agree with what you're saying. The horror community, though, they are very much.
Oh, I know how it goes.
You get it.
I know
you
how
get
it goes.
They take fanboys to a whole nother level, and I'm gonna get shit for that one. So, So I'm definitely taking my beating for what I just said there, which is fine. But yeah, we are at the semifinals. For everybody that's been following along, thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
This has been fun. This has definitely been fun. It gets harder every single round, which is pretty common for tournaments.
Yeah, it's supposed to.
It's supposed to get harder,
right?
But it has been extremely tough from the get go. There's been very few matches that have been hands down, like gimme matches, and again, for those that have reached out and some I've had a conversation with a Lesnar fan earlier this week. Look. I get it. This is our opinion. This is fantasy booking.
Yeah.
With fantasy booking, there is definitely a level of opinions that are going to be part of it. This is not the bottom line by any means, but this is what our take on it. But, and then I'm gonna toot our own horns here. We are not glorified fanboys by any stretch of the imagination. The match with Stone Cold. Mm-hmm. I came out and said it very much. That was a tough one for me, even though I had Macho Man all the way. The fact that Stone Cold and that such an important Stone Cold, a better wrestler too before all the neck injuries. This is still a year before he breaks his neck.
Yeah.
Or I should say Owen Hart breaks his neck. It's still a year before that. I felt that this is potentially a guy that could beat 87 Macho Man, but the problem is that not many people could beat 87 Macho Man. And I say not many people because maybe he doesn't win this tournament. I don't know yet. But that was such a white-hot version of the Macho Man that it's just it's tough to beat. So it's not an opinion where we don't like you and I look, I speak on behalf of myself for this one, but like the Brock Lesnar situation, I didn't base it off of the fact that I hate Brock Lesnar. I based it off the realistic fact that when it comes to his in-ring performance, he struggles against guys who are as physical as Ken Shamrock.
Yeah.
We saw that way he struggled with Kurt Angle. We saw that way he struggled with Chris Benoit.
And if if any of you think we're blowing smoke up your ass, go look at his MMA fights.
Exactly.
Look at Frank Mir.
Yeah. Look at the way he fought against Alistair Overeem. And, Brock Lesnar's going to say because he had the injury. But the thing is, if you had a fucking injury, a legit injury, then fucking don't wrestle. Don't fight.
Don't fight, yeah.
Don't fight if you had an injury. Apparently, the Gallows and Anderson.
Yeah, the original club, they are tag team champs.
I didn't know that happened.
Once again. Back to semi-face paint.
Mm-hmm. They really are going old school, huh?
Yeah.
That's cool. It's still not. This still doesn't excite me.
No, it doesn't. This should have happened when they got signed.
The only club that matters.
Yeah. Huh? All this shit should have happened when they got signed.
Yeah.
Again, ladies and gentlemen, we're watching the August 5th, 2019 edition of Monday Night Raw live as it happens. You have the original club, the OC, come out, which is Gallows, Anderson, and AJ Styles. Something that should have happened right when they got signed, because now all that momentum has to be rebuilt.
Mm-hmm. The only thing that helps them as far as the wrestling world is that the Bullet Club are in the same situation. They're rebuilding their own momentum.
Yeah,
and it's mainly because they lost so many guys and right away. But anyways, that's neither here nor there. Let's focus on our tournament here. Semifinals. 2 matches.
Again, remember, every round of this tournament was randomized.
Yes.
Thank you again to the folks over at random.org for the use of their random number sequencer, which is free to everybody. But, so for our semifinals, our first match is going to be 1994's winner Owen Hart taking on 1987's winner Randy the Macho Man Savage. Fuck.
We just talked about that 1987 Macho Man, and if anyone can beat him, I already have my answer. I would like to hear what you say.
You know, here's the thing. So, earlier we talked about Stone Cold versus Savage. Both of those guys were white hot.
Mm-hmm.
But for the both of us, Savage's white hot was much more white hot than Stone Cold's, if that makes any kind of sense to you.
Mm-hmm.
Here you have a 94 Owen Hart who pretty fucking hot going up against 87 Macho Man, and I know what I'm gonna say. I'm gonna say it. My pick, Savage. I think overall you have someone who is, even though we're talking about Owen Hart in 94, I think you still have Savage, who is way more comfortable. And I know that's maybe not saying a lot, but to me, he's way more comfortable in that ring compared to Owen Hart at that stage of his career.
So Owen Hart in 1994, I said it last week, probably the best Owen Hart that we've ever gotten.
Yeah.
Nobody was hotter than him in 1994 as far as in-ring goes. And then, too, like I said, obviously his life was cut short, which means his career was cut short. And I said last week, too, he worked for the wrong company. He really did.
Yeah.
That being said, 1994, he was still being pushed in a very legitimate role, but it was always the carrot being dangled. And, I asked a question about Bret Hart, was how much did that have to do with him, so on and so forth. Macho Man was a guy that, some people have said, and it's true, 87 he was white hot because, he was nothing more than a placeholder. Going into an 88 and being the champion while Hogan went out and did Hollywood shit. Now, I'm going to stop it right there. I get it as far as the championship belt, he was a placeholder. And that's the fault of the company, not his, that they looked at the title as a fucking prop to begin with. Because if you go by pure talent, Macho Man is no fucking placeholder. And he proved that by his in-ring performances from 87 going into 88 and so on. Nobody in that era, at that time, I don't care who you are, I don't care much longer you've been watching wrestling than me, nobody was doing what Macho Man was doing. And
not to that degree.
No. And if you don't believe me, you need to go back and get yourself that subscription and watch what the fuck I'm talking about. I love Owen Hart. I think Owen Hart could beat Macho Man, but he's not winning this match for me.
No.
I don't think that Owen Hart might have peaked at that year, but he peaked at a glass ceiling.
Very good point. Good point.
And we didn't get to see him outside of that show. Now, this was Owen Hart, 94, like Owen Hart in 87. We got a whole different match. We got a whole different ball game because a guy like him potentially could get over on a Randy Savage, as we saw with a Steamboat.
Yeah.
But I don't see it happening in this sense. For my money, Macho Man Randy Savage edges Owen Hart, and goes to the finals.
Nice. While Savage takes it to the finals, our last semifinal match, the 2000 winner Kurt Angle taking on 1986's winner, the now late great Harley Race.
What you have here is you have a guy that's past the prime of his career at this point in 86. I think it's safe to say.
Yeah,
versus a guy who's beginning his career in 2000. We've said it so many times. I'll go ahead and say it again. Kurt Angle picked up on the wrestling business faster than anybody probably ever has, ever. And you got what you got from him in 2000 and going into 2001. Just a guy that just continued to dominate the competition and showcase his style of wrestling and make really help the WWE get past the Attitude Era, which the Attitude Era was a very as popular as it was. It was a shitty fucking era for wrestling. There was not many good wrestlers coming out of the Attitude Era. There was a few, but not many. And then guys like Kurt Angle, guys like Chris Jericho, guys like Eddie Guerrero and Chris Benoit, even Perry Saturn and Dean Malenko before their careers ended, because they were helping put wrestling back in the WWE. And it was amazing that you can put Kurt Angle in that category because, again, he was so young to the game. He wasn't a young man per se, but he was so young to the game. Harley Race, in WWE, again, he's past his prime, but he's still Harley Race. That never changes. He never, just because he's not the same guy that, puts a gun at Hulk Hogan's face, doesn't mean that man doesn't exist anymore. And Harley Race is still going to be the guy that's just going to control the match. It's hard for me because Kurt Angle's a guy that could handle Harley Race. I don't know what happens though when Kurt does something that Harley doesn't like, and how does Harley react to it? How does Kurt react to it? If you go by pure talent alone, from their respective eras, with all due respect to Harley, I got to go Kurt Angle. But as far as the total package, even though I'm not gonna say I don't think, I know this isn't the best Harley Race. By a slimmest of margins, I got Harley Race over Kurt Angle going into the finals.
You bring a lot of interesting points, and you're right. But I think the only question for me is, I don't think it's a matter of what happens when Kurt does something that Harley doesn't like, although that could be a potential issue. I think for me the only question was, do you think Harley would respect Kurt Angle enough
to do the job?
Do you think Harley has that foresight to where, like, you know what, this kid is taking to wrestling like a fish to water, so I'm going to do the job for him?
That's a good point.
For me, that's the only question. If I'm going to answer it for myself, I'm going to say no. I'm going to say
no. Okay.
I'm going to say Harley's like, fuck this shit. Because I think Kurt Angle was so still new.
Yeah.
Even though he was, he had advanced way above his peers at the time, I still think Harley would have probably had a problem with Kurt being so advanced so quick.
And so, ladies and gentlemen, what happens then next? And this is for those who say, "Well, why can't Kurt still win?" What happens when you in a business, when a guy refuses to do the job, you have to go to business for yourself, and that's where the rookie mindset kind of hurts Kurt Angle here, or definitely hurts Kurt Angle here, because I don't think he knows what to do if that happens. He's going to be confused out there, and he's not going to. And not only that, but it's probably going to be a guy that respects the hell out of his opponent here, and he probably just goes along with it.
Either that, or he reverts to what he knows, being Greco-Roman wrestler.
Yeah.
And I'm not calling him, I'm not calling Kurt Angle a wuss here or anything like that, but let's be honest. At that point, if that happens, you now have a Greco-Roman wrestler against a legit tough guy who's just going to try to beat the shit out of you.
He's going to throw a haymaker at him.
Yeah, he's going to throw haymakers and, do what he has to do to win the match. So, again, for me, judging from all the footage I've seen over the years, I still think Harley Race wins this match.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, it isn't a question of youth versus age or anything like that. It's legit tough guy versus Greco-Roman wrestler at that point. And guess what? Harley Race was that legit of a tough guy to where, I'm sorry, Kurt Angle, you're shit out of luck.
Yeah, and you know what? Here's the thing, though. And just for those who understand being a rookie compared to being a veteran, 6 years later for Kurt Angle, I'm calling Kurt Angle over 86 Harley Race, because 06 Kurt Angle was a different beast.
Absolutely.
And that's a guy that would take Harley Race's shit and he'd give it right back. And nobody was more intense in 2006 than Kurt Angle. That's the guy we see on the screen right now, Samoa Joe. He got a taste of that. And he wasn't quite ready for it that first time. But man, did they have a rivalry in TNA. But anyways, Harley Race, Macho Man Randy Savage.
Final set.
Going to the finals.
There. Oh, good guy.
And for those that want to know who's going to win, all you got to do is stick around.
Stick around. It'll be the closing segment of this episode, of our 75th episode. 75,
man.
I still can't believe it.
It's a lot of time and effort and work, man. And I've some of it's been annoying at some parts, like editing. But I gotta say, I've loved every moment of it. I love when the finished product's out there.
You know what, man? It is. It's cathartic for me. It really is. And there's times where you and I, we have completely busy days, and then we finally sit down to record, and we're both shot to shit, but we still do it, and we still talk and whatever. And I'll go home thinking like, man, I could have did this better, I could have did that better, what have you. But my mind still goes there. It still races. It still wants to talk wrestling.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, no matter what's going on, like I still genuinely like to sit down, and not just with you, but it just so happens that you and I do it more often than most.
Yeah.
And I love to talk wrestling.
I got people at my 9 to 5 that listen to the show now.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah, thanks for listening, supporting us, and I wear my AEW hat to work, and they're just like, they're asking questions. When's that happening? When's that coming on? So, I'm just stuff like that. They want to know more about this, they want to know about that, or they see an article online, and I'm the first guy, like, hey, I saw this, and what's this about, kind of thing. Just I'm their go-to guy. See, some of them are actually watching wrestling on a smaller scale, of course, but still watching wrestling, and it's cool, man. It's cool that people out there are yet again supporting pro wrestling, because that's all we want. I think that was the concept of this whole. I know that was the concept of this whole podcast, was for us to continue to support pro wrestling and do what we can as two guys, from the south suburbs of Chicago, to help promote this business that we love so much, and it's been so good to us. So whatever we could do to spread the word, man, it's great. So yeah, absolutely, man. It's 75, and here's to many more.
You mentioned Stone Cold earlier. I got to see Stone Cold over the weekend.
You did?
I did. Me and a friend of the show, we went to go. Well, he wanted to go see Hulk Hogan.
Okay.
At a convention in Rosemont, Illinois, which is northern part of the state of Illinois.
It's the home of the Allstate Arena.
Absolutely. And so I went with him. And I am per se, I am not a Hulk Hogan fan anymore. Not nowhere near as much as he is.
Fair enough.
But he wanted to go see him, and he's my big brother, and I love him to death, and I don't get to hang out with him very often. So sure as shit, yeah, I'm gonna go. Despite Hogan, So we get there, and there's this family who paid for the photo op. And so the dad is dressed as Macho Man Savage. The mother was dressed as The Undertaker. And then he had 4 daughters. One was dressed as Kane, and I mean completely. Like, I think the oldest daughter was like probably like 13, 14.
Okay.
So you have from a 14-year-old going down to like a 4-year-old.
Mm-hmm.
You had Kane, Mankind, like dressed to the T, bro.
Yeah.
Stone Cold Steve Austin.
What's the third one?
And the Ultimate Warrior.
Oh shit! Okay.
Yeah, I mean face paint, the whole 9. Stone Cold really truly impressed me because she had she had face paint to do the goatee, and then she had a bald cap that she put on and like tucked her hair underneath.
Yeah.
And she had the vest and the whole 9. It was fucking great.
That's cool, man.
Yeah, it was cool.
That's
as
cool.
shit. But
what a cool thing to be able to share with your kids.
yeah, it was.
That's
yeah.
awesome.
Oh yeah. But they were. Oh my god, they were dressed to the T. It was great. It was great.
That's awesome.
Even the baby, the 4-year-old Ultimate
Little baby warrior.
She
Did
had,
Hogan big boot him or her?
she had
Give me that baby, brother.
She had the face paint. I mean, obviously her muscles were fake.
Sure.
But she had the armbands and the hair, everything. It was great.
These people got money, man.
I'm telling you.
Because seeing Hulk Hogan wasn't cheap.
No, it was not.
Before we go and take a quick time out here, again, ladies and gentlemen, this is a big month in the month of August here. And for those who didn't get to check out Triple Mania, it did happen on this past weekend on August the 3rd, on Saturday night. Triple Mania, by the way, for those who don't know, that is... I always hate when we do this, but for all intents and purposes, it is the equivalent to WrestleMania for AAA wrestling.
For AAA wrestling,
it did happen. It went on. Hell of a show. 3 new champions were crowned. We got to see the rematch of Laredo Kid and Lucha Brothers versus the Elite.
Okay.
Because remember, AEW they are partners with AAA. We got to see the main events, Lucha de Apuestas match of Blue Demon Jr. versus Dr. Wagner Jr. and what was, for me, could go down as one of the best matches of 2019. It was that good, as expected. That good.
Yeah.
Just tons of great stuff. But I wish I could plug it and kind of. I don't know how Twitch works right now.
Okay.
I don't know if it's something that you can get on demand. So I don't want to plug it and say you can.
I don't think so.
Okay. So I don't know how you can go on there and get it, but please, if you can, find a way to get a hold of that pay-per-view. It's really worth your time. But I bring up AAA for this reason, because I asked you a question last week in episode 74. AAA is doing, AEW is doing All Out on August 31st.
Uh-huh.
The next planned show is the debut show on TNT on October the 2nd. So that leaves September wide open. Do you do a show? And the answer for you said was no, which I agree with you. However, there is a show that's happening on September 15th by AAA.
Okay.
Do you remember that show?
I do not.
It is AAA invading New York.
Oh, no way.
AAA, for those who forgot, like myself, I just found out about this a few days ago. AAA is putting on a show in a little venue called Madison Square Garden.
Oh, that's right.
In downtown New York City, New York, on September the 15th. Now, we have talked about it this past April with the Ring of Honor, New Japan Pro Wrestling G1 Supercard show. The first show since November 14th, 1960, to be put on by a company that's not, by a wrestling company, we're talking about wrestling here only, that's not owned by a McMahon family member. They made history. AAA is going to be the second show to do that. Again, non-McMahon family-owned company.
Okay.
And, one of the things that we talked about, some people, that not necessarily us, but other people talked about, was that, it's unfortunate we're not going to see the Bucks, we're not going to see Kenny, or guys like Cody, or anything for that matter, at that show, at that G1 Supercard, because they no longer work for New Japan and Ring of Honor and things of that nature. And AEW isn't really on the best of terms with those two companies then nor now. But they are on good terms with AAA.
Very true.
So I asked you this question this week, episode 75. Does AEW compete at this AAA show in Madison Square Garden?
Well, let's think about it. Do you, obviously, besides exposure, what do they have to gain?
Besides exposure?
Besides exposure.
It's a ton of personal gains, I think. I mean, you got to remember, a lot of these guys, with the exception of probably Cody, has never competed at Madison Square Garden before. And when talked about the Garden last year, a lot of guys, including a Kenny Omega, who, by the way, kind of unofficially challenged Rey Fenix to a match in a future show of some kind, and say when and where. I stated that was one of those venues that, as a pro wrestler, you want to go to. As an executive VP, I'm talking about Kenny Omega here. What does he have to gain besides exposure? Not much, but there is also this though too. You get to be that other company. You're that. Let's call it what it is, whether it's official or not.
Okay.
AEW is number 2. There's WWE. There's AEW. Impact Wrestling, Ring of Honor, you're out, or you take a back seat. It's WWE and it's AEW, and you've established that WWE is competition, and every once in a while you want to stick it to them, just like the way that AEW felt they got stuck to by the Evolve show that WWE put on their network on the night of Fight for the Fallen.
Okay.
This would be their way of kind of sticking it to the McMahons, if you will, and saying, we're showing up at your venue, because this is our venue now, and then they put on the show with AAA, and it's kind of just their way of forcing the issue even more.
I say if they show up, I think more than anything, it would be to progress some sort of storyline or angle with the Lucha Brothers.
Well, the Lucha Brothers at this point, September 15th, they would already have their match with the Young Bucks. I say, at All Out, you have to end that. As much as I love that rivalry, we've seen it enough. You're going to do a ladder match. I don't know how you can top that. I like where they went with Kenny Omega and Rey Fenix. I wouldn't mind seeing that. But I don't necessarily need to see top tier guys though either.
I guess what I'm saying here is I think there's a potential, a possibility for some of those AEW guys to show up there, but I don't think we're gonna see something where it's full force.
Mm-hmm.
I think it might just be a Kenny Omega versus Rey Fenix.
Yeah.
Or maybe Cody does finally get to do a Madison Square Garden show.
So he did do the Garden. So I wasn't sure if he did the Garden or not.
So it's like I don't see them doing more than 1, 2, maybe. I think three matches is too much.
That's all they did at Triple Mania. It was 2 matches.
Yeah, I think that's if anything happens, I think that's what will happen, and I think more or less it'll be for the benefit of. It'll be for the benefit of both companies, but under under the banner of AAA. I mean, let's be honest here. It doesn't take a rocket science to figure out that, hey, it doesn't matter what promotion, what banner you fall under, you're going to run Madison Square Garden. You're going to make the most of it. You are going to have a, special match or, someone showing up that probably wasn't scheduled, or things of that nature.
And again, like I was alluding to, you don't necessarily have to have top tier guys, or either. You don't have to have a Kenny Omega. You could have, let's say, some kind of tag team match and put in somebody like, a boy and his dinosaur, something like that. You could do stuff like that. You could, you can cross talent that way as well. But still showcasing your talent. Both AEW and AAA, and not only that, but also showcasing your partnership.
I mean, if we're going to book this right, and they're gonna do it right, and have a very fruitful relationship on both sides, you do want that.
Mm-hmm.
You do want them to have not just top tier guys, but other talent in general.
You want to make it as legit of a partnership as possible.
Yeah.
And you want to make it realistic that you're going to see guys on both shows. All guys and girls. I
was going to say, if it were me booking the show, I would have some sort of crazy fucking match with women from the women roster.
Mm-hmm.
I mean...
We've already seen a TLC match at Triple Mania.
What better...
Hell of a match.
Yeah, what better way? What better way to keep that going on?
Mm-hmm.
You want to. That is a legendary venue. You shouldn't try to do anything less.
If Kenny Omega faces Rey Fenix, or just Phoenix as far as AAA is concerned, I definitely think they're going to put the Mega Championship on the line. Phoenix is their Mega Champion still. Do they do it again as far as swapping the belt and having Kenny take the belt? I say no, but again,
it'll be a hell of a match.
It's that legitimate.
Yeah, I got to see them go. I'm pretty sure the footage is still on YouTube. They did a show in Boston.
It was Maryland.
Maryland?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember that match.
They're a hell of a match, man.
Mm-hmm.
Hell of a fucking match.
One of the things too that I loved about Triple Mania, because people tend to forget, AAA they're not just doing business with AEW. They're doing business with Lucha. They're doing business with Impact Wrestling. That's still a partnership that they have. And one thing that we saw was a match that featured Killer Cross, who you could see a lot of on Impact Wrestling, and a match with Cody, who's in AEW. And I know it was a trios match, but this is where partnerships really they just hit it so well, because you get these clashes of guys and girls that you're not going to see anywhere else. Because because Impact Wrestling and AEW, they're not doing business together as of right now. But because of their mutual partnership with AAA, it's okay to do it for the show. And I thought that was really good, really well done.
Politics always makes strange bedfellows.
And it was just really good booking for those guys. But yeah, I implore anybody to definitely check out Triple Mania. And again, September 15th on Twitch. Again, you can catch AAA invading New York. Will it feature AEW? It may or may not. We were watching Raw again, and first of all, we had the very racist tag team in the Kabuki Warriors. Thanks for that one, Vince McMahon.
Well, goddamn, pal.
Yeah. I'm not going to get into that, but Paige is randomly coming out with them now. I don't know what's going on with that. But yeah, Paige.
They have nothing else for her.
Yeah, well, I mean, I thought she was. They're still paying her, I guess.
What kills me is it's racist as fuck to have this tag team together.
Yeah.
But we are looking at two out of three members from a former faction, I believe a former Stardom faction, and it's like they're taking advantage of them. Like, hey, you guys are really good friends. How about you're a little unsettled. You might not want to be here anymore with this company. Why don't you guys work together? Huh?
Yeah.
Yeah. You go out there with your friend. You be whatever the fuck you want. Just hang around.
Eat ramen together. it's as racist as what I just made it sound like. It's just stupid, so fucking stupid. But anyways, as you guys are hearing this, we're going to take a quick break here. I just want to do a quick plug-in a little bit here. It's a big month for pro wrestling, as we said. This is a big weekend. This is the 9th that this is getting released of August. We have show every day. First off, you have the Summer Supercard, the Ring of Honor, New Japan Pro Wrestling, and CMLL Super Show that's happening in Toronto. There's a couple matches that are happening there. Matt Taven defending the ROH World title against the returning Alex Shelley. So glad to see that man back in pro wrestling.
Did you hear his comments as to like what he was doing while he was gone?
I did not know.
Man, so wrestling is a hard business,
right?
Alex Shelley retired from wrestling because his life was falling apart. He got divorced.
Okay.
He was homeless.
Okay.
Yeah, like it just kept getting progressively worse for him. He wants to go back to school and finish, I think his master's degree, if I'm not mistaken. But there was an interview he did with some media outlet, and man, he had a hell of a fucking hard time while he was gone, man. Like he was like fucking Skid Row, pretty much.
No shit.
And
okay.
More or less, like he didn't necessarily really want to have to come back, but now he's kind of forced to come back. So it's kind of bittersweet for Alex Shelley to be back. I mean, all of us that are fans are completely glad that he's back, and I can't wait. I can't wait to have him back. But I wish it were under different circumstances.
Absolutely, man. I did not know that. That definitely sucks, to say the least. But it is, as a fan, you're right. It is cool to see him back. I think him and Matt Taven are going to have a hell of a match, and hopefully, win or lose, the whatever passion that he may not have for the business comes back at some point. Because you don't want to see him do it because he has to, because it's not going to be good for anybody.
No, you're absolutely right. But it'll be interesting. It'll be interesting to see him not just come back, but
right.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see probably right away whether his heart is in it or not. I mean, I don't think he's completely fallen out of love with professional wrestling.
Mm-hmm.
I think more or less like he just his life was falling apart. He needed to take time and try to handle shit.
Sounds like he needs to, one of those things where you got to catch yourself and kind of re-love yourself. That's definitely some tough shit to deal with.
Oh yeah,
no doubt about that. Going back to the card, some other matches that you're going to want to check out. Of course, Briscoes, God, Ladder War for the Ring of Honor World Tag Team
titles. I can't wait for that one, man. Oh my god!
You want to see 4 guys beat the shit out of each other? I mean, that's that right there. That's the match right there. Shane Taylor defended the World Television title against Tracy Williams, the Hot Sauce. The rematch from the G1 Supercard, Roosh going 1-on-1 against Dalton Castle, this time no DQ. You got a match like Lifeblood, Bandito and Mark Haskins versus Jay Lethal and Jonathan Gresham, a tag team match, as well as other matches on that card. Definitely something you're going to want to check out. And then the night afterwards, on August 10th, you have the one I'm probably most excited about, NXT TakeOver Toronto. Of course, going to be main evented by Adam Cole versus Johnny Gargano. Third time they're doing this. 2 out of 3 falls again, but this time each fall is a different match stipulation. Fall number 1 is going to be a singles match. Fall number 2 is going to be a street fight. And the third and final fall will be decided by William Regal. Again, it's pro wrestling. You can say if it gets down to a third fall, it's going to get down to a third fall. William Regal's going to decide it. We're projecting potentially cage, potentially ladder match, because this is the year of the ladder match, by the way.
I'm telling you, man. I'm telling you.
So, or unless they come up with some kind of crazy shenanigans themselves. But that's happening. as well as Street Profits defend the tag team titles against Undisputed Era, Kyle O'Reilly and Bobby Fish. We like to call them Red Dragon because that's who they are. Velveteen Dream defended the North American Championship against Pete Dunne and Roderick Strong in a triple threat match. Definitely going to be one of those matches too. That's it's going to bring a lot to the table. Shayna Baszler defending the Women's Championship against Mia Yim. Those two have had a very interesting rivalry, to say the least. I look forward to seeing what they do. And I'm really glad to see Mia Yim getting a push in NXT, because I didn't think she was going to. I'm glad that they did. And we're going to get another female match, too, a women's match. It's Candice LeRae versus Io Shirai. Io Shirai definitely has changed her gimmick, per se. So that should be a pretty interesting match. And, of course, you have, on the 11th, you have SummerSlam. You know, those matches happen on that show, too. So... No, you got stuff like AJ Styles versus Ricochet. Bray Wyatt's back. He's fighting Finn Balor. Kofi Kingston versus Randy Orton. I mean, none of these things are really popping out to me very much, but I'm still going to watch. Hopefully it's a good show. But I'm looking at the next NXT. As I was doing NXT, I was looking at the next NXT card after that. And this is not for this weekend, by the way, ladies and gentlemen, but I do want to point out that War Games is happening at the Allstate Arena in Rosemont.
In Chicago.
Or Rosemont, Chicago, whatever you want to call it. So we're going to see a War Games match.
Fuck.
But that's in November. We're going to get a War Games match, if you want to call it. If you will, it's not necessarily called this, but you're going to get a War Games match in September as well.
I'm excited.
You know about this one?
It's MLW.
MLW.
If I'm not mistaken.
MLW is doing it for a second year in a row. They're not calling it War Games this time.
Okay.
I forget what they're calling it, but it's not War Games. But at the September TV taping of Fusion, I'm assuming this one's going to be aired live. At least this match.
Sure.
You know, because usually one of the hours for the show is like a special episode that's aired live, and then the rest are under tape delays. It is Contra versus Levon Eriks, and I want to say Tom Lawler as their tag team partner.
Holy shit!
Inside of the
oh my god,
the two-ring cage.
Take my fucking money.
I wish that was happening in Cicero, but it's not. It's not, but it's okay though. It's all right. Whoever venue is getting that, you guys better sell out that venue.
Lucky motherfuckers.
That is going to be huge. They did this last year. They did it last year, and it was a hell of a match.
Dude, it was fucking crazy.
MLW's back, and it's going to be called by Tony Schiavone.
Oh, even better.
Because Tony Schiavone is back in the booth.
Dude.
So, I mean, that is beautiful. Beautiful thing. I'm so excited. MLW, again, give these guys more time, and you're going to be it's going to be WWE, AEW, MLW.
MLW. Absolutely.
So, I mean, it's that fucking good right now.
For me, MLW is like, I'm probably going to get I know I'm going to get a lot of shit for this from old school fans, but MLW is the equivalent of what the NWA used to be years ago, even though there's an NWA out right now.
Yeah.
They have beat the NWA to the punch, and I love it. I love the competition. Don't get me wrong, my heart of hearts is still with the NWA. I hope they get their shit together and build that roster to something special. But right now, MLW is doing your job for you.
Damn. You might have to change your identity. And we're gonna look into that as we take a quick time out to support our sponsors and pay some bills. Part 2 underway after right of this.
Stay tuned.
This episode of the 20 by 20 Ring Crew has been brought to you by Podcoin. Joe, if you're anything like me, you love podcasts, but wouldn't it be better if you got paid while doing it?
Absolutely. Fellas, ladies, children of all ages, you can now be paid to listen to us, the 20 by 20 Ring Crew. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. Sit there, enjoy Matt and I, go back and forth about professional wrestling all day, all night. Now, it's not straight out cash. You'll get paid in pod coins, but you can change those pod coins in for stuff like gift cards to Starbucks, Target, Best Buy, what have you.
Etc. Or if you're anything not like me, you can donate those pod coins to charity.
Which is, I mean, that's always a good thing.
Absolutely. So all you gotta do is visit us at 20x20crew.com/podcast/podcoin. I know it's a little bit of a tongue twister.
It is.
Again, that's 20x20crew.com/podcast/podcoin.
And don't forget, use the invite code 20x20pod when you sign up for the Podcoin app. It's going to give you 300 free coins right off the bat the moment you sign up for free.
And Podcoin is available for both iOS and Android.
And you get to listen to not just us, but a plethora of podcasts at your leisure. And the more you listen, the more money you make. It's that simple, folks. 20x20crew.com/podcast/podcoin. Get yourself signed up today. Remember, invite code 20x20pod for 300 free coins. And as always, we will
see you in the ring.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. As always, thank you again for all of your time listening and support of the show. Thank you. Thanks again to all of our new subscribers on Podcoin. You guys are way too good to us. Good Lord. Thank you
so much. Thank you to Podcoin for the opportunity too.
Yes, thank you, Podcoin. Getting back again, we're always watching wrestling on in the background. Matt has turned on the WWE Network once again. If you don't have a subscription, 20x20crew.com/podcast/WWE Network. That's all one word. He has turned something on that I have never ever seen in the entirety of my wrestling watching career. It is a show from 1993, August 22nd, 1993. It is the SummerSlam special. And clearly this was taped.
Spectacular.
Oh, I'm sorry. SummerSlam Spectacular from 1993. This was taped at wherever they were having Monday Night Raw. You see all the Monday Night Raw banners up still. So this is just like essentially like pretty much what they did for Smackville.
Yeah.
Recently. Wow. Right now we're watching Hacksaw Jim Duggan taking on Yokozuna. I had to stop myself because we were talking about Hacksaw Tim Duncan. If you don't know I don't remember what episode we had shared.
It was
that
our WrestleMania.
Oh, was
episode,
it?
Yeah.
Okay, it was WrestleMania from this year. So go back to that episode and listen to that fucking shenanigans of a story. Good Lord.
True story, by the way.
True story. Yep.
That's what makes it
he's
so
not
great.
Hacksaw Tim Duncan. It's Hacksaw Jim Duggan. But yeah, him versus Yokozuna. I don't think it's for the title or anything. But
no, because Yokozuna is set to defend against Luger
at SummerSlam.
At
right?
SummerSlam.
Oh, that's right. The three guys in the front row over there got the shirt, the special shirt you can buy with Yokozuna and Luger on it.
Now, you said you weren't watching wrestling in general.
I wasn't watching wrestling in general. I had fallen out of love with wrestling at this juncture. The business was at a lull, as far as I was concerned. And I went on to watch other stuff. It was short-lived, though. Mm-hmm. I mean, I think me being like, I'm done with wrestling, it's fucking stupid now, turned into like, I don't know, 4 or 5 months. And then I was like, I need to watch wrestling again, man.
Yeah. A true fan, for sure.
I think, to be honest with you, I think the only thing that really helped me was that I just had access to so many different organizations.
Yeah.
I think if that wasn't the case for me and I was stuck with just WWF, I probably would not have watched wrestling. Or it would have taken me longer to come back to it, you know?
And that's what I love about this era.
Yeah.
Is that we have so many platforms.
There's never a fucking dull moment.
No. I mean, I'm gonna lead you in here, actually. Partner.
Yeah, I was gonna say, great segue.
I'm gonna lead you in there because you have things like the WWE Network, which has things that them themselves have ways to separate you from their bad product because they have NXT and NXT UK. But you have New Japan Pro Wrestling's out here, MLW, Ring of Honor, AEW, especially when they start up weekly in October, as well as a plethora of smaller companies and international companies, but smaller companies here in the US, companies like Evolve, like Shine, like FIP, and things of that nature, and you have all these regional and smaller independent wrestling companies now that you can watch, all by way of an internet connection.
Yeah, and I'm glad you mentioned all this because the folks over at Independent Wrestling TV have put their streaming app now on multiple platforms, and in order to celebrate the situation they got going on, they're giving you a whole week of live shows. Now, by the time you hear this episode, it would have already been started for. Actually, I think it's 2 weeks.
Okay.
There's a show on each night of the 2 week.
Beautiful.
That they're going to give away for free. Mm-hmm. So you don't need any. I don't think there's even a promo code or anything. I think you just, to new subscribers, if you sign up and sign up for a free account, every night until the 16th of August, you're going to get a free show to watch.
Beautiful.
They have a schedule. I'll put it on the episode page. Oh, you know what? I take that back. I'm sorry. It's only 1 week.
Okay.
So we'll just be rounding out the week, but you'll still get a few more free shows when this episode airs. Mm-hmm. Head over to independentwrestling.tv, and they're calling it mobile app launch celebration week. And every night you're gonna get a free show. It started on the beginning of August with Crux Wrestling, where they presented Hey Jealousy, and it's going to end, if I'm not mistaken, on the 9th of August. So yeah, you might just get one more show. If you're listening to this, you might just in time make it for the last show. But they were giving the show away free every night as part of this. Independent Wrestling TV, definitely the place to go for indie wrestling. Really quick too, before I forget, I know he doesn't listen. He might start listening now that I met him. Shout out to Matt Burns, who used to wrestle for a bunch of different places in southern Illinois and central Illinois. I met him in line waiting to see Hulk Hogan. Really cool cat. Really cool cat.
Or was Hulk Hogan waiting to meet him?
You never know, brother. No, he was a really cool cat. He was really cool to talk to, and turns out he also knows CM Punk. Not necessarily in the best of ways, but
okay.
But yeah, independentwrestling.tv. Go over there, sign up. There are tons of different promo codes for different organizations. I'm not going to list any of them right now, but if you sit and do your homework, if you're interested in Black Label Pro, head over to Black Label Pro's, social media. Pretty sure you can find a promo code for 20 days of free Black Label Pro. And then, follow through with whatever other Fed you're interested in. Usually that's the case. They'll give you a free trial that way with their own promo code.
Yep.
But everybody's on there. Black Label Pro's on there. Crux Wrestling, Chikara, MC Wrestling, Women's Wrestling Revolution, Freelance Wrestling, who's celebrating their 50th show.
Congrats, Freelance.
On Friday, August 16th.
Beautiful.
Those are hometown boys here in Chicago. That 50th show is going to be called Get Over or Die Trying. So, but yeah, I was telling Matt before we came back from the break, I think one of the highlights of their free, Celebration Week streaming was Scenic City did a 2-night invitational, and you had the likes of like Anthony Henry, J.D. Drake, Marco Stunt, AC Mack, a bunch of guys. And I didn't get to watch it, but I heard it was one hell of a card. Both nights were, so I'm excited. I want to go back and see if I can't find a promo code or something that can sit and wet my whistle temporarily, or catch some highlights on YouTube or something. But yeah, independent wrestling is alive and well and kicking on independentwrestling.tv.
It's a beautiful thing because now you get to have another way to support professional wrestling, because as I was telling Joe here, what happens when you don't support it is that companies don't make it.
Oh man, it's disheartening to hear this, but please tell the kind folks here in the 20x20 ring crew.
I'm very with a heavy heart, very much so. I have to announce that Defiant Wrestling has officially closed their doors.
And that's
Defiant.
Not Defy.
Yes, not Defy. Defiant. Used to be called What Culture Pro Wrestling. Mm-hmm. Before they changed their name, I believe it was back in 2017, late 2017. They changed their name to Defiant Wrestling. They had a weekly TV show that they aired on YouTube. I know they were having issues with YouTube. You and I have had our issues with YouTube as well. They weren't making money off of it. They were not making any money off the Loaded show. They were banking it off of live events and pay-per-views, and they just couldn't make it. Great show, such great stuff. It is very sad to hear that they just financially couldn't continue to run, and it sucks. And I know I was plugging it on the show. I was trying to do my part. And I know my word as far as right now only goes so far, my voice. But I really really sad to see that go. And whether it's a small company or a big company, anytime that a wrestling organization, even ones that we may not like at the moment,
yeah.
We said it on the show before. We don't want to see them close their doors either. We don't want to see any wrestling company close their doors. By that happening, people lose their jobs.
It's bad for business.
It's bad for business.
It's bad for the business.
And one thing that one question I wanted to bring up out of this was, is NXT UK partially to blame for this? Because a lot of talent has been scooped up.
Let's go back. Let's go back before NXT UK was official.
Yeah.
You might know this, you might not know this, but before NXT UK started, the WWE had put out feelers all over Europe, all over that independent wrestling scene. Like, hey, we want you guys to be a part of our network. And they were trying to sign different feds to shows, to stream through the WWE network. And there was a lot of blowback. A lot of feds just told them, hey, go fuck off.
Yeah.
ICW, I think, was probably the biggest one to tell them to go fuck off. Progress Wrestling was like, no, I don't think we're going to do that. They were a lot more cordial about it, but also pretty much told them to go fuck off. But that's what started the ball rolling. And how NXT UK came to be was they kind of strong-armed all those smaller companies and either started rating their talent, and I don't just mean in-ring performers, owners and things of that nature, and I'll explain that in a second, but they were either rating talent or pretty much telling people, like, hey, we're going to start running these venues and all this other stuff. And anyone who's here stateside, who's familiar with the inner workings of WWE, knows that they play hard ass all the time. So, just like they didn't want Ring of Honor to run Madison Square Garden, that it works for smaller venues too. And is that always a kosher way to do business? No, but is it effective? Yeah, most of the time. Is the WWE and or the NXT UK brand at fault for this? Partially, yeah. Because, let's face it, a lot of that talent got swooped up or decided to travel elsewhere because of this. And that was the big fear going into the creation of NXT UK. It was like, how long before all these other smaller companies either start combining into a bigger entity or folding? And unfortunately, it seems like Defiant is the first casualty. Will there be more? Probably. It's a sad state of affairs, but probably. Getting back to what I said about talent rating, it wasn't just in-ring performers, because for those of you who don't know, the owner of Progress Wrestling is actually an executive producer for NXT UK.
Yeah.
Not a lot of people pay attention to what Jimmy's doing, but that's again, politics makes strange bedfellows, And to be honest with you, as much as I hate to say it, I wouldn't be too surprised that in the coming years we don't hear for sure that Progress Wrestling becomes an official European breeder for WWE.
They become the next Evolve.
Yeah.
And real quick here, because there's really not much to say about this as of yet, but we've talked about the potential Triple H wants to do NXT globally.
Yeah, NXT South Africa, NXT Mexico, so forth, so on.
Mexico's a good example, but I was thinking of top of my head Japan.
Mm-hmm. Well, there you go.
In your just right now, in a nutshell, I guess, in NXT Japan, like, how effective would that be in causing the damage that potentially the UK version has caused?
Japan's a little different because it's not quite the same. Anything Western is perceived in a specific way, and I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, that's very true.
And so when you go, don't get me wrong, like, wrestling fans out in Japan love Western culture. Anytime you see a gaijin go over there, whether the Japanese constituent that are on the roster love it or not, there's always room for some Western wrestlers to do very well out there, and that's nothing new. You go back and the Stan Hansens and Big Van Vader and
right.
All those guys. Oh my God, fucking massively popular in Japan. So
and guys like Matt Bloom have succeeded out there.
Jesus, yeah. So it's nothing new. You're talking about a whole brand. That is something a little bit different, but I think with enough time and enough push, I think it becomes a thing. Unfortunately,
you think so?
Yeah. Now, how well it affects the rest of the wrestling landscape out in Japan,
like a New Japan.
I don't know, because I think more so than anywhere else, it becomes one of those things like how well you treat your talent. I think that matters a lot out there when you have something of this kind of a situation going on. Because let's face it, if you feel you're not being treated fairly enough, and now this new company is around, you're probably inclined to go and give it a go over there and jump ship.
How many guys, having guys like, let's say, Kenta, or I guess Kota Ibushi's probably not the best example, because I don't know how mistreated I don't think he was there long enough to be mistreated.
No, I don't think so either.
But a guy like Kenta, for example, and there's others that I'm not, just not jumping out of my head right now, but having those guys there, how important is that for your talent, for as far as like a New Japan or any other company, to have those guys in the locker room to say, hey, even though it may not be the best here, I don't know if you want to go over work for those guys quite yet.
It's pretty important. Look what's going on in India. You have Sanjay Dutt, who was signed by WWE away from Impact Wrestling.
Mm-hmm.
He's a road agent. He's a backstage producer specifically for WWE India product.
Mm-hmm.
He's out there with Abyss and a few other people, and that's their team out there. And it is important for Sanjay Dutt to be there, because essentially, like, he's the local boy. You know, he knows more about that part of the world than they do.
Well, now I'm referring to, though, in this case, the opposite. To say, hey, maybe you don't want to go to a WWE-owned company because guys like us, even though it's NXT Japan per se, guys like us, this is as far as you're going to go. Like, if you're looking for a bigger payday, and as far as WWE is concerned, look at where Japanese talent, how far they actually make it in that company.
Two things here. One, tradition plays a big part in Japan, more so than other places.
Huge, absolutely.
I'd say even
it's an understatement what you just said.
Yeah,
for sure.
I'd say even it's more prevalent in Japan than it is even in Mexico.
Mm-hmm, I agree.
And so that plays a big part. But let's face it, man. You and I both know neither of us is naive to the fact that wrestlers don't usually make a whole lot of money.
Mm-hmm.
And money's money. Doesn't matter what color it is.
True.
So I think if it doesn't matter who it is, how well you're treated, I think if you, not to sound like the $1 million man here, but I think at some point everybody's got a price, especially if you're a pro wrestler. And if Triple H and Vince have deep enough pockets and they want to make it work, they'll make it work.
And this is why it's so important to have a company like AEW or have other growing companies here in the States, but it's why it's so important for a company like New Japan to continue to evolve and not fall back on old school traditions like a Tanahashi would want you to. Because by doing so, you give the people two things. You give them the money that they want, but you also give them the prestige to continue to make more money. Mm-hmm. Because even though money's money, we've seen so many guys go to WWE, leave WWE, and have a hard time making money because you didn't do anything in WWE.
Yeah.
So you made your money, but now that's all short term. Maybe you didn't spend it well, maybe you didn't invest it well, and you need to make money now, and you're having a hard time getting booked for the right price.
Yeah.
There's that, but going back to Defiant, it was definitely a hell of a ride. I love watching those guys. I watch them every week. I might have skipped a few weeks here and there, but that's every wrestling company.
Yeah.
There's too much wrestling to watch.
It's too much wrestling right now.
But yeah, I take advantage of things like independent wrestling TV. Watch there's just so many opportunities to watch. You can watch stuff that's local in your neighborhood, and maybe you want to buy a ticket afterwards to do so. Just no excuse to not to not support professional wrestling. And we're getting to that point in the episode where we're going to talk our finals. Now, we mentioned it before that this is something that we usually do for our YouTube.
We usually do it exclusively on YouTube under the brand The Following Contest.
Now that show has been on a little bit of hiatus lately, but things. There's no excuses for it, but it's coming back.
It's coming back.
It's coming back, and it's going to come back very strong with a very special episode. Actually, a very special multi-part episode coming up here soon. I wanted to kind of give viewers, before we do this, I want to kind of give the viewers a little taste of what the Following Contest is all about.
Sure.
It's very simple, ladies and gentlemen. It's fantasy booking. Joe and I, we take matches that we would like to see, and we make them happen. We make them happen, and then we discuss it, how the match will go down. Maybe we discuss potential storylines. We can discuss the actual match, who would win. And the whole concept is not just to be Joe and myself, because we don't want to just talk about our fantasies. We want to talk about your fantasies as well. It's supposed to be interactive, and we implore you to go and voice your opinions. And voice your opinions on the matches, voice your opinions on matches that you want to see.
Absolutely.
And it could be something, and it could be anything. There are no wrong answers. Even if it's something that Joe and I really wouldn't want to see, we still want to hear about it.
Still want to hear about it. If it's happened already, and you just want to comment about that particular match, please.
Yeah, I mean, if it's happened already, but it's the wrong time zone, wrong time frame. Let's say you have let's talk SummerSlam right now. Let's say you have a Goldberg versus Dolph Ziggler. That's the first one that pops in my head. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
But and you're like, I don't. Let's say you're a Goldberg mark. Hey, that's you're allowed to be a Goldberg mark if you want to be, but you don't want to see 2019 Goldberg. You want to see Dolph Ziggler versus 1998 Goldberg. I'd rather see that too.
So would I.
You could book that match. That's the whole concept. So, I've had a match in my head as I was watching the G1, and I was also playing. I'm a video game collector. I play video games both old and new. There's really no rhyme or reason to what I play at any given point. I've been playing a lot of retro stuff lately.
Okay.
And there's a guy that we talked about on this show earlier in this episode that I've been using a lot of because he's one of my all-time favorite wrestlers. And I've just pictured him in the G1. I pictured him in the G1 because, man, he would absolutely take my money right now.
Okay.
And there's a handful of guys, and maybe this guy that's currently in the G1 now, maybe he's not the guy that you, as in Joe right now, would choose as your number one option. But for me, they're so alike in so many ways. As far as personality goes, I had to book this match. So this is an example of what we're talking about with the following contest. The guy that I'm referring to, the old school guy, if you will, is none other than the legendary, late great Eddie Guerrero.
Okay.
Who can match up against anybody in the G1, take my money all day.
Yeah, right.
But the guy that I want to see him face right now, if I could, is none other than Destino himself, Tetsuya Naito.
Wow.
Just two guys that just completely embody charisma inside that ring and can absolutely wrestle their asses off.
Can I ask you, are we talking Eddie Guerrero, or Eddie Guerrero under a mask?
Oh, it's a good question. For me, it's Eddie Guerrero, the first one. Eddie Guerrero. But I'm intrigued if you got one for both. I'm intrigued. But I choose Eddie Guerrero as far as without the mask, because Eddie Guerrero, to the point for where he's obviously still a phenomenal wrestler, but he's also a character in that ring.
He is, yeah.
He definitely personifies charisma. Same thing with Tetsuya Naito. Tetsuya Naito's a guy that will fuck with you, and you think you've seen it all, and then he wrestles, and it's just like, and it just completely it's always amazed me how he's able to just turn it on and off, just at a snap of a finger. Stamina for days, guys that could, they take their own offense and they innovate it in a matter of seconds.
Yeah.
Just ways that just like modified whatever it is they do. I mean, I've seen Tetsuya Naito do the Destino in so many different variations. You never know how he's going to do it next.
Yeah.
Eddie Guerrero is another guy that, he can pull moves out of nowhere. He can be a submission specialist. He can be the high flyer. He can be the technical wrestler. He can be whatever you want. You need him wherever he needs to be to get the job done. As well as both guys too have proven that they can also be the aggressor and be very physical in ways that maybe even brutality or hardcore, if you will, and as we say in the wrestling business. So they match so well. They mesh so well together. I mean, this right here is one of those for sure, like, fantasy matches that I've had for quite some time now.
One thing I used to love about Eddie Guerrero was you're right. He would be whatever kind of wrestler he needed to be. But it was the little things, like for instance, you go back and think of like a Ric Flair.
Mm-hmm.
You'll see Ric Flair start picking apart someone's leg because sooner or later in that match he's going to try to apply the figure four.
Right.
So one of the things he loves to do is set the guy's ankle on the lower rope and then just drop down on it and sit on the guy's knee, and that starts to loosen up the guy's leg, or the knee. But Eddie Guerrero used to do the same thing. Most of the time you'll just get guys, they'll do the same thing, drape the guy's leg on the bottom rope and just sit there stomp on it. Not Eddie Guerrero. He puts it on the bottom rope, and then the next thing you know, he's on the outside on the apron, and he basically catapults himself over the top and then straight down onto the ankle or the knee and rolls through.
Right.
He doesn't have to do all that shit, but he does. That's what Eddie Guerrero does,
Yeah.
Same thing with Tetsuya Naito. I'm thinking about in this year's G1, spoiler alert, he lost to Toru Yano, which was a hell of a fucking surprise and a hell of a match. But he made a mistake in the match. He wanted to go tit for tat with Toru Yano, and Yano just happened to better him that way. But he was willing to play along with Yano. So for whatever little shenanigans Yano was trying to get him into, he would try to answer back with it. So at one point, I think Yano was trying to get him to basically run the ropes, and try to tackle him. But when he would go to do that, Yano would step out of the way and just be like, "Hold on a second," So Naito would go back at him like, "All right, your turn." So he'd go to do it, and Yano would come at him, and he'd move and be like, "Hey, tranquilo,"
Yeah.
And it was just a lot of that back and forth.
Right.
I could see that happening between him and Eddie Guerrero. Tit for tat. Who can do it better? You want to do this? We're going to do it this way. Come on, I'm going to beat you. I'm going to beat you at your own game. And vice versa. Eddie Guerrero would be the same way. Oh, you want to play it like that? Fine. We'll play it that way. I'm going to beat you at that. And that's what makes that match so fucking interesting. For me, anyway.
Right.
And then, you have that as the base layer, but then as the match goes through, again, you're seeing them put their own innovative spin on moves that other people do, or they do themselves. And that adds yet another layer to this onion, It's so fucking interesting. For me, I hope it's a broad mix of both technical and high flying. But I'm a wrestling fan. If they go all technical, I'm all in. If they're all high flying, I'm all in. Either way, I'm committed. I would love to see this fucking match.
Yeah, I mean that right there just it warms my wrestling heart to even think that if this was ever a possibility. Obviously, it's not. But Eddie Guerrero and Tetsuya Naito, I mean, that two guys that just really represent their generation. Of pro
absolutely,
wrestling.
absolutely.
And just an absolutely fantastic match. I mean, who'd you take?
Well, hopefully, at some point in the match, we get to see them both go 100% lucha libre. I would love to see both of those guys explore that discipline against one another in the ring before they end that match. That would be fucking awesome to see. Who do I have? I'm going to upset somebody out there, I know.
Oh, either way.
But, for my money, it's going to be Eddie Guerrero.
Eddie Guerrero?
Yeah.
One thing that pops in my head, to go back to the tit for tat thing, I think we have Eddie Guerrero pulling off a Destino.
Yeah, I would assume.
And Naito at least attempting a frog splash at least once. these guys can go 60 minutes in my opinion, and nobody wins, and I'd be satisfied. But if I had to pick a winner, which I'm going to, I too go Eddie Guerrero. But that right there probably has a lot to do with just me being a huge fanboy. But as far as, I mean, it's a realistic pick, of course. I mean, it is Eddie Guerrero, of course. But I mean, Tetsuya Naito right now is on his game, and he continues to get better and better, which is a scary thought. Eddie Guerrero is a guy that one thing I could say about him is that he never aged.
No,
he never showed his age in that ring. He just continued to get better.
He never showed his age.
Although he was a young man when he passed away, he was a guy that wrestled for many years.
Yeah,
it wasn't necessarily a young man in that ring anymore, but you didn't think it. You didn't think it. I mean, because he was waves better than most of the talent that he competed against in WWE at that point in his career.
I will never forget when he became champ.
February of 2004.
And I know a lot of people had issues with him being champ for a variety of reasons.
Okay.
But I think, at least in my circle of exposure, a lot of people were just like not. They just couldn't get over the fact that he was small in comparison to
Lesnar,
to most of the roster.
Right.
And they're like, oh, he's just not a believable champ, and all this other shit.
Guy but he was built like a fucking brick house at that point.
At that point, yeah, he was probably the biggest he had been, But I'll never forget there was that match against JBL, where it got bloody real quick, and for a lot of those guys that were telling me like I don't believe in his title run, that match kind of in a weird way put him on the map for them. And it was one of those, like, call me an opportunist, but that was the match where it got people to open their eyes about Eddie Guerrero. And a lot of people had that holy shit moment. And I'm sitting there like, I fucking told you so. This is what I'm talking about. I'm sorry that it had to be an all-out fucking, blood match, and that's what sold you on him, because he's so much more than this. But if this is what it takes to get you started, hey, I'm all for it.
Right.
Yeah.
For anybody that looks at pro wrestling and says guys aren't believable because of their size, I'm still waiting for your wrestling cards to be sent my way. It's pro wrestling, man. It's pro wrestling. Like, get over yourself, Jesus. But yeah, that right there, Eddie Guerrero, Tetsuya Naito. That is just one of many examples you're going to hear on the following contest. Again, that is a YouTube exclusive. More details in the upcoming weeks as we get the ball rolling on that and the revival of the following contests. But yeah, again, this is an interactive opportunity for everybody to voice their opinion. Send it in, and at the end of the show, we're going to give you all the ways that you can contact us and give us your fantasy matches, things that you want to see. Now, without further ado, is our main event.
Our main event, the finals of our King of Kings tournament, first annual, by the way. Remember, each round was randomized, so a round would take place. The winners would be randomized and face off in the next round. We are down to 1987's Randy the Macho Man Savage taking on 1986's Harley Race in the finals. Goddamn. First and foremost, obviously, no disrespect to the now late Harley Race, but he is in the twilight of his career at this point.
Yeah.
And he is facing a white hot, like white hot Macho Man. And unfortunately for me, that's what I think that works against Harley Race, whether I like it or not. How much, I don't know, because again, as I stated previously or at the beginning of this episode, Harley Race is a legit tough guy. I'm not saying Macho Man wasn't, but I would be interested. I would be interested to see and hear about any backstage shit that ever happened between Harley Race and Macho Man. That would be really fucking interesting to hear.
Two madmen right there.
Oh yeah, neither one would want to back down, you know. And you know, I don't know. I don't know. Do you think Macho Man is the pistol pulling type?
Yeah.
Yeah, you think so?
In the right situation.
In the right situation.
In the right situation, for sure.
Because Harley races.
Yeah.
That's for damn sure. Whether you're on the commode or not. Oh man, I really am. Above all else, I am really infatuated with the idea of someone like Macho Man in 1987. For me, that is what a pro wrestler should be all the time. Even today. I mean, you've known me for how long now? One of my top matches of all time is him versus Steamboat at WrestleMania 3. Mm-hmm. To me, that was the match that stole the entire show.
Yeah.
Fuck Hogan and Andre.
Right.
That was your attraction match. Yeah, it main evented, but you want to talk pro wrestling? Steamboat versus Savage, 1987, Pontiac, Michigan. That's fucking professional wrestling. I hate to say it, man. Sorry, Harley, but I'm picking Macho Man Savage as the winner in my book, anyway. Harley's gonna shoot me now.
For those that are familiar with the grocery industry, they'll understand this. The saying, what I'm about to say here, and that's Hogan and Andre was the pop. Macho and Steamboat, that was the meat.
That was the meat.
That's what sold. That's what you actually make money on. You brought people at the door for Hogan and Andre, but the real fans, the ones that stuck around for decades, they're there to see Steamboat and Savage. Because even today, you can bring people to the door for John Cena, but those fans, those half-hearted fans, the moment they get slightly bored, they walk away.
Yeah. Because
it took a lot for my partner here, guaranteed. I didn't know you back then, 1993. I was a little kid.
Right.
I guarantee you, it took a lot for you to walk away from the industry. And even then,
yeah, it did.
Even then, it didn't take long for you to come back. That's a real wrestling fan. You know, again, we see all these fans, a lot of these fans now that are all about the pop and circumstances, if you will. You know, no pun intended. But you know, those fans, those half-hearted fans, they don't stick around when things get tough. So yeah, Savage and Steamboat, that's your meat. That's what sells. That's what continues to sell. That's
one of the matches I talked about not watching wrestling for 4 to 6 months during 1993, and it was because of the WWF. Mm-hmm. They pissed me off, but I had other places to go watch wrestling. I still had NWA. I still had World Class. Mm-hmm. Reruns and shit. And
I mean, you got a guy that's well over 7 feet tall, and he's wearing a full body muscle suit with hair.
It's all airbrushed on, yeah. But speaking of the WrestleMania 3 match, that was one of the matches I would continually go back while I was away from watching wrestling, watching the current product, and I would watch that. I had it on tape. Mm. I would watch WrestleMania 3 just for that fucking match. You know? I mean, don't get me wrong, I would let the tape play through and everything, but that was my favorite match off that card. I would love to sit there. I still love to sit there and watch that match.
To this day.
To this
for
day.
Sure.
That's what got me back to watching wrestling. It was missing the potential for matches like that. You know?
I want to point out real quick, 1993 here, Lex Luger, this whole tour that he did, and you see how much, just by watching it on TV, how much, or how little I should say, he does not want to interact with these people.
If you listen to Bruce Pritchard's podcast, he talks in depth about that Lex Luger and what a fucking horrible experience that cross-country tour was, and how horrible Lex Luger was to the fans. It is a really interesting episode. I don't remember what number or what the title is, but I am pretty sure if you look up Bruce Pritchard podcast Lex Luger 1993, you'll find it. Hell of a listen. And again.
So the vibe I got is legit then.
Oh yeah, yeah.
He does not want to do
I was gonna
this.
say again. I know there's people out there who don't necessarily buy stock in Bruce Pritchard. Like it or not, he was there.
Mm-hmm.
He's telling
Very
it.
true.
He's telling it from how he remembers it and his side of things. Lex Luger, as far as I know, hasn't commented on it, but it's still interesting. You could take it with a grain of salt.
Sure.
But listen to it. It's still really interesting.
It wouldn't be the first time that I've heard a negative Lex Luger story. So, I've even heard guys that known him pretty much have said that where Lex Luger is today is essentially karma.
Yeah.
So
safe to say. Yeah, safe to say.
But anyways, my pick on who's going to win, I agree with my partner here. It is Macho Man Randy Savage. Again, Harley Race is indeed in the twilight of his career, and going back to the Kurt Angle match, he in my book he almost lost that match. It was the green Kurt Angle.
Yeah, that was the difference.
Hang. Yeah,
that was the difference.
And again, we're referring to a green Kurt Angle versus 1986 Harley Race. We're not referring. When I said 06 Kurt Angle, I didn't necessarily mean Harley Race from earlier years.
Right.
I meant 86. Same thing, but going back to where I'm at now, 87, we're at a Macho Man who is at the peak of his career. And I think that's been the reason why he has been able to surpass everybody, is that this is Macho Man at his very best. And there's nobody that's bringing any more at the table in this tournament than Macho Man has. And it has been a pretty easy pick to go Macho Man all 4 rounds, because again he brought it out of everybody there. So many guys who won the King of the Ring tournament were at that point in their career where they were just ready to break that glass ceiling. Other guys were past it, like a William Regal or Harley Race in this case. But then you have a guy like Macho Man who was not at his twilight, but well past being green in the early stages of his career. He was the guy. And the only downside to Macho Man Randy Savage in 87, 88, and 89 is that eventually he had to give the torch back, if you will, to a guy who couldn't lace up his fucking boots.
Yeah, man. Yep.
And that's his only downfall.
It's the only downfall.
Is that he worked for the same company as a piece of shit like Hulk Hogan. But other than that, there was nobody in the business. And if these guys existed today, for today's perspective, and some people might say, well, that's not really a bad thing. But Hulk Hogan, and even though we've talked about this, but in today's perspective, Hulk Hogan is today's John Cena. Macho Man is today's Kenny Omega.
Yeah.
That kind of work ethic.
Oh, yeah.
And there's a reason why a guy like Kenny Omega is super over without the WWE moniker, because of the work ethic that Macho Man Randy Savage in '87 had.
Yeah, absolutely.
Changed the game. He helped change the game, and there you go. Macho Man Randy Savage from 1987 is your
King of Kings.
Inaugural King of Kings.
Wow.
It's been fun.
Yeah.
It's been absolutely fun.
We gotta do it more often.
We gotta come up with some more tournaments. These are really fun.
I want to do a fantasy G1.
You want to do a fantasy G1?
I would love to do a fantasy G1. That's something I've been chomping at the bit since since I started talking wrestling with you. It's just something we haven't got around to doing. But yeah, for sure. Absolutely.
Sounds like a plan to me.
Ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do it this week for us. Our 75th episode. Good God. How time flies.
75, man. Jesus.
Again, thank you again to Matt Burns for entertaining us in line while we wait to see the quote-unquote immortal Hulk Hogan.
I didn't get to meet you, but, thanks.
Yeah, it's a cool cat. Cool cat.
Sounds awesome, man.
Happy birthday to my partner.
Thank you again so much.
For 30 by 30 more. Absolutely. I need you around for a very long time.
Yeah, that's the plan, right?
We're going to close out the show. And again, if you haven't been listening to us, or you're a new subscriber, what have you, please take the time to support us. Visit our sponsors. Any little thing you can do. Listen to us on Podcoin, please. That has been working wonders for us, and we thank you for all the support. 20x20crew.com is our home on the web. You can find all of our past episodes and links to our YouTube exclusive stuff there as well. We are available on Facebook. Facebook.com/20x20crew is the official 20x20 crew page on Facebook. We also have a wrestling group on Facebook, facebook.com/groups/20x20talk, where you can actually sit and talk with Matt and I about all things wrestling. We're available on Twitter if you want to hate tweet us, twitter.com/20x20crew. For the time being, you can email us at 20x20crew@gmail.com with your questions, comments, concerns, fantasy bookings, whatever. You wanna send us nipple pics of who you think has the smallest nipples?
We're still looking for that.
I still look. It's her fault. It's her fault.
Thanks, Mel.
Thanks, Mel. Yeah, send them there. You wanna talk about stuff you're too afraid to talk to us about in the Facebook group? Please email us. Do what you got to do. 20x20crew@gmail.com. Again, we fantasy book all the time. Some of it is when YouTube wants to cooperate. It is up on YouTube. 20x20crew.com/podcast/YouTube to access all of our YouTube stuff, including the following contest, which is all of our YouTube exclusive content. We try like hell to get stuff up on YouTube. They just don't want to cooperate with us all the time. But we're trying. And Instagram.com/20x20crew. If you want to send us some pics there or tag us or what have you, please. We're always if you attend the show and you got you Instagram the hell out of your photos, please tag us. We'd love to see the photos.
I want to see them, absolutely.
There's a I'm not going to mention their name. I love these guys to death. They cover shows, indie shows all the time, and they're friends of the show. And they took footage of this quote unquote amazing exchange. And it was at some indie show. I don't remember the show right offhand. I had one huge problem with what was going on in that ring. Don't get me wrong. It was a great exchange between two wrestlers. A lot of chain wrestling. They were slower than molasses in January. You saw every move coming minutes before it was coming. And that's what it took me out of the experience completely.
Okay.
Credit to the guys who shot it. I'm not taking anything away from you guys. Awesome camera work as usual. But to sit there and call it an awesome exchange, those two wrestlers in that ring, I don't even know who the fuck they were. They should have been on their A game and been a lot quicker with those chain moves. Do what you got to do, boys. Get that shit down packed.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm pretty sure there was little kids in the audience figuring out, like, oh, that's coming next. That's coming. You know, that's how bad it was. That's how slow it was.
I gotta check it out. I know what you're talking about. I gotta check it out.
But yeah, I think that's it.
Yeah, just real quick here, guys. Again, I'm gonna wrap up the show.
Wrap it up.
And I just want to say again, support professional wrestling. I cannot stress that enough.
Support it.
I don't want to see shots. Long live Defiant Wrestling. Thank you so much for years of just great wrestling. UK indie wrestling. Again, that's Defiant Wrestling. I say it kind of fast. I don't want to see anybody else close their doors. Support professional wrestling. Go to shows. Watch it. I mean, you don't even have to have cable anymore. Just stream it.
Yeah, it's all over the damn
It's all
place.
over the place. There's no excuse to not watch it if you are calling yourself a fan, of course. And then thanks again, my partner again. Thanks again for the birthday wishes. 75 episodes. I can't thank you guys enough. So until next week, I've been Matt. He's been Joe. You guys have been fantastic. And we'll see you for episode 76 next week.
76.
And we'll see you in the ring.
See you in the ring.